Hello everyone, welcome back my channel.
Massive brawl in Big East Showdown. Duncan Powell's flagrant foul sparks chaos. A heated Big East clash between the Providence Friars and the St. John's Red Storm spiraled into complete chaos after a controversial and dangerous play ignited tempers on both sides. The incident occurred when Providence forward Duncan Powell attempted to disrupt a sure layup by St. John's star Bryce Hopkins. Powell came flying in from behind, swinging for the ball, but instead made heavy contact with Hopkins midair. Hopkins crashed hard to the floor, a scenario every basketball player fears. Mid-flight collisions can lead to severe injuries, and in this case, Hopkins was fortunate to escape without serious damage. He immediately sprang up and confronted Powell, and within seconds, players from both teams rushed in. What followed was less basketball and more battlefield. Powell appeared to escalate the situation further, charging towards St. John's players with what looked like an aggressive fake swing. The scene quickly deteriorated as pushing, shoving, and elbows began flying under the basket. Commentators described the moment as looking more like a pro wrestling match than a college basketball game. Injury risk and why this moment mattered. This incident could have had massive implications for St. John's season. Hopkins is a critical piece of Rick Pitino's squad, averaging 13.8 points, 5.6 rebounds, and shooting over 46% from the field. Losing him, even for a few games, would have been a significant blow, especially with Zuby Ejiofor as the only higher scorer on the roster. 6 players ejected, game delayed 20 minutes. Officials eventually restored order, but not before issuing 6 ejections, bringing the game to a halt for nearly 20 minutes. Along with Duncan Powell, Providence guard Jalen Sellers was also tossed. However, the majority of the ejections came from the St. John's side, including Dylan Mitchell, Kelvin Odie, Ruben Prey, and Sadiku Ibine-Ayo, all stepping in to defend their fallen teammate. Assistant coaches and officials were forced to physically separate players, and once the dust finally settled, both teams had to re-warm up due to the extended stoppage. Extra fuel. Hopkins complicated history with Providence. Adding another layer to the drama, Bryce Hopkins has deep ties to Providence. He spent 3 seasons with the Friars and once called the Amica Mutual Pavilion home. However, injuries limited his appearances, and his eventual decision to leave for St. John's didn't sit well with Friars fans. Hopkins had already faced boos during a January 3rd matchup at Madison Square Garden, and the hostility continued in this game as well. Final outcome. Despite all the emotion and physicality, the chaos ultimately did Providence no favors. The Friars failed to capitalize on the momentum, and St. John's emerged victorious, proving that discipline and depth still matter when tempers flare. Whether Duncan Powell's foul was reckless frustration or calculated aggression is up for debate. What isn't debatable is this: moments like these can define rivalries, shift seasons, and leave lasting scars far beyond the final score.